Hey everyone, I'd like to provide you with some insight into the concept of literacy, which is what several of your next readings and posts are going to center around. We will soon dive into Deborah Brandt's article on literacy sponsorship too. Your first major project will be based on Brandt's ideas, so it's important to first have a good understanding of what we mean when we say literacy. Both Kyle Stedman and Amber Peterson write about the complex meaning of literacy. Keep in mind that while Stedman is writing directly to students, Peterson is writing more for teachers, but we can still apply her ideas to our overall understanding of literacy. You likely think of literacy as the ability to read and write, and you're definitely not wrong in this thinking. However, you'll soon see how literacy can take on new meanings when applied to different contexts. Ultimately, we can think of it as a tool that we're given, or even a tool that we must earn or fight for to function in society. In fact, according to Peterson, literacy has long been used as a tool for maintaining power. What she means is that those who are literate may have more opportunities to succeed, but also not everyone has the chance to become as literate as some. It all really depends on a person's background and on society's social and economic structures. So that is something that you can get more into by reading Peterson's article. We also must consider that there are many different types of literacy, which is what Stedman goes into. He calls them new literacies. We can be and we are literate in many ways. For example, you might be competent in both social media literacy and video game literacy. There's a lot of different types of literacy that one person can be competent in, and it all really depends on their background and what kind of access they've had to literacy learning. In this way, context is key. For instance, let's say a real estate agent in Charleston, let's take that for example, they need to be literate in the Charleston housing market. They need to know prices, they need to know different locations, and they need to know what home features buyers are looking for. Like traditional literacy, new literacies still involve a reading or a comprehension part and a writing or acting part, but it may not look like traditional reading or writing. It all depends on what type of literacy it is and what context it falls in. Ultimately, literacy can be considered a social activity that cannot be separated from its social context. What do I mean by this? What you do with literacy and how you use and think about it is influenced by other people. This goes back to Peterson's idea of literacy and power. This is also where Brandt's concept of literacy sponsorship comes into play. So Brandt argues, as you'll see when you read her article later, that we all have multiple sponsors that provide us access to different literacies and shape the way that we approach literacy. So for instance, let's go back to the example of the real estate agent. Let's say she has a boss or a partner who has educated her in the Charleston market. But they educated her in a certain way, a way that might be different than somebody else's approach. She might also have certain websites or magazines that she follows to stay up to date on the housing market, all of which are going to be biased to some extent. All of these things could be considered her literacy sponsors in this particular type of literacy. So, as we will soon dive deeper into Brandt's idea of sponsorship, I'd like you to go ahead and start thinking about all the ways that you're literate. What new literacies are you proficient in? How did you become proficient in those? What skills and actions do each of these literacies involve? How do you use literacy to interact with others and with your environment?